identified pro-black.
History is about teaching us as a people that wars.
I want to speak about the image of our people. We have to be protective of our image.
Our ancestors, they were oppressed, and we are oppressed today.
Hotep, everybody. How y'all doing? This is Jah and this is Kev. I got choked up because I have. And so, yeah, I'm just excited about today's broadcast. Every first and third Saturday of the month at 1 Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Time. And we're just excited that you all joined us today to talk about a subject that I want to talk about. And I'm sure Brother Kevin wants to talk about, but I'm going to let him do the honors of telling us why he chose. This is his baby. It's called shedding blood. Now, what does that mean, Kev?
Now, a lot of times when people think about shedding blood, they think of drawing blood from someone.
Mm-hmm.
And when you and those type of situations, you thinking of violence or something like that. We're talking about shedding blood on this show.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about, like, I'm a person, anybody knows me, I have snakes.
Mm-hmm.
And my snakes shed their skin, every so often, and they had to discard their skin. So that's shedding.
Okay,
that's what they call shedding. And blood that I'm talking about is loved ones and family members.
Okay.
So sometimes you have to distance yourself from those people that are detrimental to your goals, or that will try to sidetrack you, or and this is something that you could tell your kids. Like, if your kids go off to college or in high school, they're gonna have friends that's gonna cause them to deviate from their goals, or be asking them or putting pressure on them to do so. If you have those type of people in your life, you got to shed those type of people.
Wow.
So we're talking about shedding blood, as in loved ones. Sometimes it's family, loved ones, whatever.
Yes, sir. Wow, Kev, that's pretty heavy. I just really got excited when you said that, because sometimes people don't realize what you're saying has to be done. You don't have a choice, because a lot of the relationships within the family, it becomes toxic. They're harmful. They're very dangerous. Then when you also involve the children. Now, today we're going to be talking about a lot of aspects of shedding blood, meaning distancing ourselves from those in our family that are just harmful to us emotionally, psychologically. But I'm going to be looking at some of the reasons why we should, because I know someone's going to be saying, well, why should we do that? And I think that's fair. So,
and so y'all call in if y'all know some people out there. We all go through this. Or we have ideas about this.
Yeah.
And if you want to call in, it's 361-405-6111, and we'll take your call. You could get in, say what you have to say, and get out, and we appreciate that also.
That's good. So I want to start off by talking about how some of these relationships within our own family are harmful. They're poisonous. They're toxic. And so we should distance ourselves, because if we continue to allow them to treat us the way they treat us, thinking that because of the so-called family ties that we're doing something important, then we've just, and I think people don't want to hear this part, Kev, but the truth of the matter is that's going to help us, because we don't need to put ourselves nor our children through that week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out. And we see that it's not getting better. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And it's a lot of different dynamics to that. It's situations. I mean, when you talk family and relationships, you have your relationships with your significant other. You have a relationship with your ex, baby mamas, baby daddies, and things like that. And sometimes that deadbeat dad, you got to have that relationship where they not showing up with your kids, and they promising things, and sometimes you just gotta somehow cut ties. You got to deal with that. Hey, I'm not gonna put my kids through that. You making promises and things. So sometimes it's people and situations. Sometimes it's your own kids. They get grown sometimes, or they are a teenager and they think they grown, and those are painful situations that you have to deal with.
Yeah, you do. And see, what we're not saying is this, because I don't think people will understand it if we don't put this caveat on here. We're not saying that you leave your family forever, and that you don't speak to them, that you want to kill them, that you want to dog them out, that you want to talk about them all over the world, that you want to go as far as from the east to the west. We're not talking about that. We're talking about from that time frame that these people are tripping, as we would say, or wilding out, until you see that some kind of I guess, that you can come back, and then you can always gauge it,
Yeah.
And to those who are out there today, there's normally one person in the family that likes to keep everything together, and we talk about Martin Luther King wanting unity. So we have a lot of Martin Luther Kings in these families that want to pull us together. But I want to say to that person, don't allow your family to treat you like dung just because of keeping that together. Because when Big Mama died, when the elder woman or man that is the glue, a lot of times when they die, it's a done deal, Kev. It's a done deal.
And people start acting the way that they want to act, and sometimes they take it out on each other or whatever. But whatever the reason is, you have to be able to shed blood. You have to be able to shed, distance yourself, and some of those choices are difficult. It's not easy, depending on what that person is to you, how often you see that person. Sometimes it's immediate family. I had discussions with people about things that happened to them while they were kids, and I've had, this is a couple of people just this week about things that people did to them in their family that was inappropriate. And things. So it's like, but the family is not, being that buffer or that protector. And I've had probably like 3 discussions, and they're not even, I didn't go out seeking it, but it's like you have a discussion about something and somebody say, well, this happened to me. Or this, whatever. And it's like, wow, so this is more prevalent than we think. And it hurts. And it hurts because it's family. Or the family is not protecting you. So these type of discussions that I've had probably, like I said, all this week,
and they must be had. And one of the things we have to look at is the family members, each person in the family. A lot of times, because we don't know our role, we don't know our responsibility. So the others in the family, we have to shed blood. We have to distance ourselves, because family used to be, and in some instances, they still are. But in many cases, families are not that close bond like it used to be, that knit like we had growing up. Now it's so estranged, mothers against the daughters, the sons against the fathers, the sisters against the brothers, the aunts against the uncles, because they don't realize the unity and the camaraderie that a family's supposed to be, even with all of our issues.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is so freelance as far as going against family members over small things? Now, some things that we're going to talk, it's sometimes you should be shedding family, but I mean, like, we get into it over small things, and we think it's okay to just, you see your cousins and they your aunts fussing with each other, or getting, people wanting to get into fisticuffs or whatever it is, or I'm not dealing with that person. It's over menial things. So why do you think that is?
Well, I think most of us have never sat down and studied the psyche of a family. We don't know what a family unit is supposed to do. We don't know that the parents should be actually help bringing up the children. Even when the children get to a certain age, the parents are still the ones that are supposed to be leading the family. But often when the kids get in their 20s or 30s, it turns, and now the children are running the parents. And so now the parents have to ask for permission from the children, as opposed to the children always conferring with the family, with the parents, when the parents are the older ones. And it's a loss of respect. It's a loss of respect. It's disrespect. It's also not knowing one's responsibility. We can go on and on, but it boils down to a lot of us haven't looked at the family as to how should a family function? What should be the goal of a family? How should the family go from point A to point B? We don't have these discussions, Kel.
So therefore, it's dysfunction.
Exactly.
Because, and I look at a point what you were talking about. It's a time when the elders, they're falling behind technology and things like this, and so they need the younger person. That sometimes the younger person is like, you don't know how to do this, or you didn't do this, and you have to. And then they think that, okay, now it's like I'm dealing with a child.
Wow.
And it's not so much of that. It's just that's out of their era. It was a point when you were too young to know how to do things, and they didn't teach you, they didn't treat you like that. Like, oh, they was teaching you. And so you have to do that also when they because things are coming along that they didn't grow up with. And then now you're going to have to, okay, this is how you have to do your bank account. This is how you have to go online and do this. And people don't have tolerance or patience with their elders that had patience with them when they was teaching them.
Yeah, that's true, Kevin. Then also we have to look at one of the reasons that we should shed blood, meaning we should distance ourselves, is because there's a lot of psychological damage that happens over the years. I mean, many families are going through so much hurt from, I'm talking about people are in their 40s and 50s now, but this has been going on since they were in their teens or even before that. And so they carry all that baggage. And now when they're adults, they can't communicate when there's a function, because they have all this baggage inside of them, and they first time someone does something, instead of them looking at how we can go forward, they want to unleash all this stuff that's in them that they've been holding on. Man, I know people that have held on to things for at least 30, 40 years, and all it takes is a family gathering or a family reunion or something where that one person says, you know what, I just been wanting to say this. Well, you could have been said that.
Right. and I mean, you have to pick and choose the time to do things, because sometimes it may be a family reunion, and then you come there with on your soapbox, and you want to, hey, just what was going, and it's like, it's not the time for that, really, because everybody's there to have a good time, kids, older people, and here you come with your issues that you've been holding in and fostering, and now you want to unload. But I think it's another time to do that. Sometimes you have to pick and choose, but the main thing you said is respect.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, because you could have an issue, but I think that being respectful of the occasion, being respectful of the occasion, being like, sometimes it's funerals, and people want to, and there's a lot of emotions going on, and people want to say this or act this way, and it's like you showing out, but it's not. And I understand it's not personal,
right?
Because everybody's going through emotions and deal with emotions, and sometimes anger comes out when you're dealing with emotions when people are hurt. Funeral situation.
And it also, another reason we should distance ourselves from those people in our family that are toxic is that it encourages personal growth. See, we don't look at growth in terms of when I separate. If you and I are beefing as brothers 24/7, when you separate from me or I separate from you, I'm growing. See, I can step back from the situation. I can look at my own self and say, hey, if I'm objective, I can say, you know what? Maybe it's this way or that way, or I look at my own heart. But until I do that, I will never know, because all the time, every time I see you, we're going to clash because we have it in for each other.
And that's the mature thing. That's the mature thing to say, you know what, whether you think you're right or wrong, it's like, I don't, because I've had people that I've come up with, not family, and it's like, I don't deal with that person because, they be in but it's like, because it's abrasive, the conversations become abrasive, and I know how I am. And if it becomes like that once, then it's like, you know what, maybe I need to just not be around, or the family members. Sometimes it's family, it's a function there. People say it's so-and-so there, and they keep inviting the same person that always is the instigator and all these things like that. But sometimes if you don't invite that person, they'll get the message, hey, because every time we come here, this is not the time and place for all of that. It's always things that's happening, and they're going to be defensive. But it's like, but every time it's always something and somebody else. You don't know how to come here and not be drunk, or not, or not be talking about old things, or things that is going to aggravate somebody or agitate. And
what you just articulated is another reason that we should distance ourselves, and that is, when we do distance ourselves from these people in our family that are harmful and poisonous, we're setting boundaries. We're saying to ourselves and to the others, I would not allow you. I'm going to set a boundary. I would not allow you to infiltrate my boundaries, and I will not infiltrate yours, based on the fact that I know that if I continue to do this, I'm allowing you to just treat me anyway. And I think when we talk about family, some people don't realize, they feel that family, we can treat each other any kind of way because we're family.
And we're tolerating it. What you tolerating is what you accepting. Like, it's control too. You can control. Don't let that person control your emotions. For one, and you can, not let them do it by just saying, hey, I'm about to leave. Hey, I appreciate seeing everybody, and y'all have a good time. You just get away, distance. You shed the whole situation, so you don't have a bigger situation or things that's going to be more harmful than good. So.
And it breaks those cycles mentioned earlier of the dysfunctionality, because many of our families are dysfunctional, and so when we separate ourselves and we concentrate on our immediate family, we can then show them what a functional family should be, as opposed to a dysfunctional family. And I think that's very important for the children, because I want to say something a little bit later on about our children, as far as when they grow up with this. In other words, I'll say it now. If you and I are brothers, and your children see us arguing and my children see us arguing, when they get older, they're going to do the same thing. They're not going to like your family or their cousins because of you and I, and vice versa. And it's a cycle, and it has to be broken. And this dysfunctionality, most of us that's watching this broadcast, we're in the midst of this. Many of us are. We know it's like that, but yet we have to break that cycle of dysfunctionality by saying, I'm going to separate myself for a season. until we'll try it again.
Yeah, and you could do it without saying, because I know people go with all this social media stuff. Well, I'm not dealing with family because this, and you don't have to broadcast anything. You just become more a little more distance. And people say, why you not coming around? Well, it's just, I don't want to be dealing with a lot of things that happens, or I may, just say what you're going to say. And one thing you did say about growth, a lot of times when people say, well, you don't deal with that person no more. And I think you have to be very careful to say, well, I've outgrown that person, because when you're saying that, some situations it is that.
Right.
And some, like, I may have like a best friend, or me and my cousin or somebody like that may have been tight, and then we just separate, we don't hang around or talk because we have differences. We've grown apart, not just because when I say I outgrown you, or if somebody said, man, what happened with you and Jah? Well, I outgrown him.
You're right.
That means that you were stagnant, and I'm that you're gonna take that like, what do you mean? And somebody say, yeah, he say he outgrew. You're gonna be like, what? No, it's just that we, sometimes people just grow apart as opposed to saying I've grown, because that person may be growing doing something different, and you may be doing, and it's not bad. That's not negative. But sometimes we say that thing like I've outgrown them. Then people, that's like an arrogance. It's like,
that's true.
So,
and I also think too, Kev, when we're talking about this shedding blood, we have to look at the concept of love. We need to really look at love when we're talking about family, because sometimes people think that when you separate or distance yourself from your family, they say you don't love them. But I beg to differ. I say we separate because we do love them. See, and we don't have a full understanding of what love is, because love isn't that which you allow, as I keep being is not that which you allow people to kick you in the teeth, run over you, drag you through mud and all of that. That's not love, Kev.
You're setting the boundaries for that. If you love me, then you wouldn't be doing those things. And people think because they're family or they're close to you, that those things that they do supposed to just be, that's family. You're supposed to get rid of that. Just keep going. And a lot of times I see people, they do things or they say things, and it's like they don't apologize or anything. They just allow it to happen, or they say what they want to say when whatever situation they're going through. And then instead of coming, they just try to wait a little time, then it's going to go over. And then when you're not dealing with them, they're going to be, well, that's family. You tripping over family stuff. It's like, yeah, but we was family when that happened. When you said that. And then you should be adult enough or whatever, mature enough to say, hey, you know what? Things, even if you're not sorry, you say, hey, things got out of line between us, and I just want you to know I love you, whatever, and we could just keep going. You ain't got to even apologize, because you may been everything I told you, but or did everything I was voicing my opinion. If it got argumentative, then it should be a point that you still should say, hey, are we good? I just, or talk it out. Like you said, get together, talk it out. And hey, I got heated. I didn't want it to become like that, but this is how I felt. And this is why I felt that. And if it's like, hey, we just both disagree, we agree to disagree, but at least make that conversation and communication happen.
That's true. We also should distance ourselves from those people that are toxic again in our family relationships, is because we have to help protect our children's emotional well-being. So we've got to look at that, Kev, because what happens is these children grow up in this mess all these years, and then it bothers them psychologically. So then when they have a family, they feel like this is the normal thing because that's what they were raised doing.
And I've been very careful with that when I see kids, and I tell them this is not the way things should have happened. I go and say, hey, I know that this is what happened here, but this is not the way things should happen. Instead of just apologizing or making things amends with the person you got into it with, those that was around, especially like you say, the kids, because they could be influenced. I should go to them and say, hey, I know things went this way. I was wrong because I let it go that way, and I should have left. But this is not how family functions. That's the mature part of dealing with it. You don't just deal with that person because you dealt with that person in front of everybody. So then you go back in front of everybody and say, I always say, don't scream obscenities for me and then whisper apologies. You was yelling and doing, like, everybody heard you saying all this stuff. Then when you want to apologize, you just want it to be me and you. No, okay, you want an apology. Let's do it the same way you was grandstanding and telling everybody,
Yeah, that's so true, Kev. There should be a preponderance of teaching within our families, because every time we get together as a family, for the most part, there's something that is a teaching moment. Now, you can't do it in front of everyone, but you can take your children at home and then you can say, mommy or daddy or uncle and auntie, you can role play. Was that right? And then the child is going to tell you, then you can correct the child if they say, well, yeah, auntie was right for cussing that man or cussing my uncle out or whatever the case is. You can begin to explain to them, no, auntie could have done that in a better way. She didn't have to go that way. And then she didn't have to continue to bring them when her son got in on it. So you can use all these moments as teaching moments, but often we just talk about them. When it happens, we go home and we call somebody and we tell them, guess what? I was at a family reunion and guess what this SOB did? And then we start talking about them. Then the other people will start kind of feeding us. And before you know it, we begin to just become monstrous in how we think when it comes to the family. We shouldn't have those kind of thoughts about our family members.
And I think you need those people. If you're going to voice what happened or how you feel, I think you always need that one person that's going to play, I hate to say devil's advocate, but, advocate it in a different way and say, well, what about this?
Mm-hmm.
What about, not that you're wrong.
Right.
Because a lot of times when people want to talk, if I'm telling you, Jah and my cousin did this and then they did this and I want you to say, what? Yeah. We're just like, well, Kev, what did you, and I say, well, I did. Well, why did you do that?
Right.
Well, because and then the people, they get mad at you. Like, what you mean? I have somebody tell me, are you listening? I'm like, yeah, but I'm just giving it to you from another angle because what you did was accelerated everything in the way you act. You was an accelerant. And I'm saying, how about just back and not letting that person do this? Or why did you feel like you needed to say it? Sometimes people get mad at you for that.
Yeah, they really do.
They want acceptance in what you're saying. And sometimes they just want you to listen. Okay, I'm just gonna listen. I'm not gonna say anything then.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a tip now during this broadcast. This is a tip for you. You may already know, but this is a tip.
Oh, okay.
I want you to know this, Kev, as far as family. Whenever there's issues within family and you happen to be a part of it, make sure that you do one thing, and that is this: guard your peace, guard your internal peace, because that's crucial. And a lot of us don't have the peace that we talk about when we go to our religious settings, and that's great. But we always talk about peace. We even answer the phone or hang up on the phone when we talk. We'll say peace. We want people to have this internal peace. Hotep means peace, but we have to. We gotta guard that peace. See, and that's something that has to be done actively. That's not something that's just going to happen just because we get together as families.
That's a constant thing to do, because it's sometimes when I go and I visit family and there's turmoil, and it's not like I'm getting into it, but I'm saying they getting into it. And I'm like, man, why y'all, it's like maybe two cousins. And it's like, I know that this person, from what you telling me, that person was wrong, but that person may be telling me and you may be wrong, but I'm like, well, man, why don't y'all talk? And it's like, after a while, it eats on you, because you're seeing two people that love, whether it's in the house or not, whether it's you got a spouse that's getting into it with the kids, and it may not be her kids or his, but see, it's a lot of tension and friction, and that's unnecessary. And I've seen that, and I've lived through that, and I've watched people deal with that, and that's a hard thing to do, because you want peace, and these two people that's going at it, that's causing anxiety in your life, but they're not being peaceful, but they're around you constantly. It's in the household, or whatever, or it's your kids going through this, and you're not going to sleep right. Because it's hard for you to say, well, you know what, I'm not going to worry about that, but you're going to always worry about your kids, So that's the thing, that the whole thing, when you have kids, that's a whole different ball game, as a saying, a cousin, or uncle, or aunt, because you could not have to deal with them at all. And with your kids, you could not have to do, but you're going to always feel that.
Yeah. And see, another thing too is, a lot of us, we have to look at the two concepts that I want to bring up. One is called theory, and then one is called reality. In theory, the family should be the closest thing that we have to each other. The family should be those who we should confide in. The family should be that person that we should be able to talk to in secrecy and not have to worry about those secrets being spilled. A family is supposed to be so close that you will give that other person in your family the shirt off your back if necessary. But in reality, that's not how it is. In reality, it's a family feud. In reality, in many instances, the aunt is against the other aunt, the cousins against the cousins, the nephews against the uncle, the nieces against the aunts. And so the reality is, all that stuff is going on, but yet in our minds, we know this shouldn't be this way.
Right.
So that's when we have to sit back and distance ourselves and say, hey, I got to remove myself from all of this nonsense, because it's not helping me at all. In fact, I find myself being drug into all of this because it's so strong, man. It's not just one or two people, and families are going to always have issues. So let's put that out there now. As a group of people, all of us have issues, but we can't come together on one accord for a positive meeting to enjoy each other as to who we are as people without you or me or someone else coming in there with hell in our hearts, ready to start something just because, as opposed to the attitude that we have when we, like you mentioned earlier, when we even get together. Some of us are just waiting for something to happen so we can go off and start trouble.
Yeah, I think it's what you're saying is 100% true. Everyone has issues. Families have issues with each other, and I've known sometimes it's generational. Like it may be things with my mom's generation, her siblings or something, and it may be something that happened that they're fostering from before I was born, and so it starts to grow, and then it's just they growing apart. But then it's like, well, you can't just invite one and not the other, because then they're gonna be think the family. Why did you invite that? But my thing is, you have to learn to be amicable at functions. Have to learn to be respectful. That this is not the time. I've been in places where I don't like this person, and I think this person is something bad, but I don't deal with that person at that function. I may speak or whatever, and it's like, hey, and I go on and I deal with other people, and that's how people got to be. Now, if that one person that comes there wants to use that occasion as, a firing, squad or whatever, I'm just gonna like this person. I'm gonna talk about this person. You know what? The family should be like, you know what? You need to go on and go. Because with whatever's happening, you bringing it here, and this is not the place for it.
You come with you premeditated it. You said in your heart, I can't wait to get around them, and then when you get around us, then you begin that process, and that's sad. But once again, when we distance ourselves from our families, that fosters independence. That fosters identity. That lets me know that, hey, this is how I am. See, and then you will know, hey, when I get with Jah, if we keep on doing this, he's going to probably go and do his thing, and I really miss him. And then I'm going to tell you the reason that I don't come to all of them for now is because of, and then you're going to say, well, maybe you didn't know it, because I can't just hold it all in and just grab my ball like I don't want to be bothered and go somewhere else. But I need to be honest about it and say, Kev, this may be my last time coming for a while. You're going to say, for what? And as brothers, I'm going to tell you, because, when we get together, then I'll talk about whether it's you and I or myself and other people, and try to see if we can get this straightened out, as opposed to hollering, I never come back to this GD place. You see, that's how many of us act, because we don't know how to think when it comes to families. And I think that neurosis, that's a problem that we have to look at. How do we think towards our family? Because most of us see us as rotten, dirty, and that's not how we are. We all have issues. But if I see you out the corner of my eyes, before I get to you, my brother he's a con artist, then I'm going to treat you like a con artist. And you're like, Jah, why are you talking to me like that? But in my heart, I might just say, in my heart, I know why I'm treating you. But in my mouth, I'm going to say, oh, you all right? You good? Then why are you talking to him like that? I notice those dynamics. Every time we get together, I talk to everybody else nice. How you doing? So and so. What's up? When you talk to me, I'm really coming at you, as opposed to being honest about, I got something in my heart, man, and I need to deal with that.
I mean, I could deal with people I just give them a pound and a hug and be like, oh yeah, all right, what up, man? Or hey, a fist bump, or keep going. So we do that at work. Why we can't, and we protecting at work. We protecting our job, because you go to some holiday function or something, there's some people in there that you cannot stand, or just snitched or whatever, or a supervisor, and it's like you still there, you grinning their face and you walk away like, yeah, that person I can't stand. You telling your spot, I can't stand that person. That's the person I was telling you about. And it's like, but you don't do that. You just keep it moving. But you could keep it moving. You got it. And one thing you said about family, I want to inject this.
Okay.
The dysfunction in family happens regardless, but you have to build family. Family is not just something that happens. If you want to have a functional family, you have to build that with your kids in that situation. You have to build that with whomever is in that situation with you. Family has to be built. It doesn't just happen and things just, because you got all these different personalities, all these different issues. And sometimes you got to build and teach. Even if you have to teach older people in a way that they will be acceptance and don't even realize that you teach them, because they may not want it coming from a nephew or something like that. But it's like you get to them and you talk to them and it's like, yeah, I understand what you're saying. And you got to be able to reach them some kind of way to a mirror
Mm-hmm.
of what they're doing from your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how I probably would have handled it.
Wow,
You
that's
know,
good. That's good. We would love to hear from you. 361-405-6111. Once again, 361-405-6111. We would love to hear from you on the Jah and Kev show. To see.
yeah, I'm just going to thank some of them that showed up.
Okay.
We had Marie. She said Hotep Kings, and Barbara Royal, Hotep Kings. I appreciate it. And Josiah said, you have to separate at times and never underestimate family. You never know what they be on. And that's true.
Yeah.
And that's everybody, family, friends, whatever. I mean, people, they're part of society, and you know what's happening in society. Avelina, I appreciate you showing up. She said distance. And Coretta said, great topic. She said, good afternoon. And Barbara, you want to read what Barbara said?
She says, my mother was the glue that bonded the family. After her death, the family got much worse than they had been. Many attempts have failed for us to come together because it's always that one or more that causes chaos, and then the plan fails. I've become the Martin Luther King as I continue to try to bring us together. Although the worst and hardest thing I've had to do is shed blood, love taken from afar, or love them rather from afar, with all the love in me, still trying to bring us together as we speak, shaking my head because the love and memories are to be made now.
Right. I appreciate that.
I have nothing else to say to that, but I know one thing that we need to look at is those types of comments, Kel. Those basically say that we are treating ourselves the way we should. Why? Because that produces what is called a healthy relationship. See, our relationships within our family has to be healthy. There's a lot of unhealthy relationships within families, and a lot of times we don't see them as unhealthy. We just see it as family. But when you lay the law down, set your boundaries, and do what you can do, and when you see you can't do anymore, that's healthy. That's very healthy.
Right. And you can feel good about yourself as far as like we're talking about distant family. Like I say, it's levels to this. Some people are I have discussions with people where you're dealing with kids, you know, and like Josiah said, sometimes they may be on something. And I heard, I believe Ricky Smiley say something. He's like, he had to cut his oldest because his child was on drugs. He come back in the house and he's stealing things and things like that. Those are things that many families have dealt with. They dealt with that one sibling, that one uncle, that one person, whomever that's got strung out on something, and they come and then things come up missing. You know, it's like you don't trust those type of people. And that's a difficult situation to deal with, especially for a parent, because it's hard for a parent. I believe it was a Spike Lee movie too. And I remember the first time I saw it was Halle Berry and Samuel Jackson. And Samuel Jackson, I believe he was the both of them were addicts, and they was coming to the parents' house, and the dad was hard. You know, hard love. The mama let them in, and things would come up missing. And that's a hard thing for parents to do, because you're telling a parent, it's hard for especially a mother with that maternal connection to shed blood when it comes to, and it's something that probably needs to happen. You have to be able to discard that person and not set. You have to set those type of boundaries, because that if you don't, those people will constantly come into your household and cause a disruption and cause pain to you, more pain. And even knowing that they're out there and you're not providing them with a place to come, protection, then you're going to constantly be worried about what's going to happen to them out there. And if it does happen, you're going to have that guilt trip of, you know, what could I have done, or what more can I have done? And sometimes that person made those type of choices that put you in that type of predicament. And even though it's hard, you're going to have to shed that blood to a certain extent. Not saying that I don't have anything to do with, but it's still going to be a point that, you know, you're going to have to show them love from a distance, because the drug put the distance, or the addiction put the distance, or that significant other put that distance in you. You know, that girl, that daughter or whatever, she's constantly with this guy that's abusive. And then you got family members, the guys that want to do something, but then you're putting them in a position that they may lose their freedom or their lives fighting for you, and you're going to turn around and be right back with this person.
Yeah, that's true. I see that so often. But, you know, one of the things that shedding blood does for us is it helps us with our morality. It helps us with our values. In other words, there are values that you and I would say as family members that we hold dearly. And if those values are violated, then we must respond in such a way that it's going to mean distance. It's going to mean that we're going to for a season, we're going to stop allowing this to happen. And then when people ask us, well, why are you not participating? That's when we begin to say, well, I have values. And then we can explain to them, especially with my children. What I see, and a lot of times I think people just take it for granted, when adults are around children at a function, a family function, some of the things that adults say around children are inappropriate.
Right.
And we might as well put it out there now. But the adults think it's cute. They think it's cute. And then when these little children grow up and repeat the same thing, we want to smack them in the head and say, where you get that from? It's not off of TV. It's not off of social media. They got it from the family. So values are like, hey, if you keep talking like this, and then they say, well, get the kids out. Well, that's not the point. The point is you should be respectful enough to have a conversation seriously that you can talk no matter who's in the room. It's not a secret. The kids need to see us loving on one another.
Yeah. The respect, like we said, respecting the moment of what you're the function and things. This is not the time to just be discussing things that kids can't hear anyway, because we're at some kind of birthday party or something like that. But it's like, oh, these kids all in our mouths, but you shouldn't be having a mouth full of, all this stuff anyway, because that should be something that should be spoken. And then you may not see family at, normally, but then you should have things to say, hey, we need to get together and discuss some things, get together. But every time y'all get together, those things don't need to be discussed. I can sit here and enjoy this situation without sitting up here discussing so-and-so's son is a drug addict and so-and-so's daughter is out on the pole or something like this, and this happened. It's like, no, just, we could talk about this another time. Enjoy the occasion.
Now, what I want to bring up now, this is kind of veering, but it's family oriented. Whenever we get together as a family, when I say we, I'm talking about generally speaking. Why is it that the younger generation, not all, they put on music? You're talking about the parents are inappropriately speaking. Some of that music is inappropriate for elders, children, but yet they say this is the party. When they put on some of the music, you can play music that's going to be encouraging, but all that stuff, and you know what stuff I'm talking about,
right.
Kiss my, do this, do that, and people listen. Some of the adults, oh yeah, that's my song. You almost 100 years old and can't even move, broke down, and you're trying to rock and roll with those words. The kids are hearing that, and you ought to be ashamed of yourself to let these elderly hear you with that kind of music.
That's funny, man. Because things coming to mind, like you said, all those things, and I was having visions of these things. And
I hope that when you play that music,
but I think like when I think about personal Lewis family reunion, and me and my sister and some of us, we try to put this together, but then we getting things from the older generation. I don't want to hear this type of music. And I understand that. We're just like, yeah, we already know that. But we're not going to sit here and play gospel because you're this person. And you got to find something that's like the good old 70s, that everybody could dance to and have a good time. And you see everybody dancing. You don't have to play all this contemporary stuff, because then you have that group of teenagers or younger people. They want to hear this stuff. And they want to hear it. If you want to hear that, go take that walk that young people do, and they come back with their eyes all bloodshot and whatever. Do your thing, but listen to that there. Or but you got to respect the function. That's what that comes to, respecting the family, respecting the function. And I've had situations where people got upset because you told them, or they may be doing something. It's like, yo, man, we're not doing that here. But then you also can't be controlling. And I get into this with the dynamics of the family. The older people, they used to do this stuff when they was younger, and now they didn't went and got saved or whatever. Now I don't want anybody playing cards and dominoes and all. Now you want to control it. It's only like 8 of y'all, and we got 30 people that's younger that want to play dominoes and cards and all this stuff. And because your belief, you think, well, that's wicked, that's evil. You got to be able to understand that this is a family function. And them doing something is not, it's not like the music where everybody can hear it. Them playing cards over here, is not. It's like we got those dynamics in it.
And with my family, and I won't mention any names because maybe they're watching, but in my family, when we get together, there's this thing that happens where the younger generation, they go to a car and they get something out of a car, and they either drink it or smoke it. And instead of doing it once and coming back and enjoying everybody, because sometimes that makes you festive, you want to get down, but then you go back to the car, then you come back, you go back to the car, you come back. Within an hour's time, you're staggering, you're using vulgarity, You don't care who hears what you say. And that stuff has taken over your mind to where now someone has to really tell you this is not called for. And then your mother or sister going to get angry because, well, I checked you because of what you're saying around my grandmother is inappropriate. So here you got this whole thing now where these people, sometimes you cannot go to a family function to just get drunk and to get high. That's not what the function is for.
And if that happens, to as far as I'm concerned, don't invite that person next time. Tell them why you're not invited. Say, bro, you know, I know you, but this is what you're doing. You know, we can't have this, and what you're doing, what you did last time. You know, set boundaries, like you said. You set boundaries. But it's funny because I used to see my uncles and aunts do those type of things.
Oh yeah,
yeah. They used to take them down. They older, and then they mad when the younger people doing those type of things. And I have to tell them in a way, in a tactful way, like, hey, I remember y'all used to do that too. That's crazy. You know, I remember y'all used to. My grandma used to say, "Oh, they out there with that funny lettuce. They smoking whatever terminology she used." And we know. And it's like they think, okay, now they, I don't want this going. You know, these kids, they be coming up smelling like that. Like, yeah, I remember y'all used to do that too. And I was sitting there watching y'all. You know, but it's like just dealing with family. And those are like things that's like, you know, just I mean, but it's hard because then my thing is, this is my thing about family functions when things get disruptive and people want to start going there. And I get upset when I say, what were y'all doing? Why didn't y'all step in between all of that? Even if I'm like, if you see that these people are starting to get, I could tell if you getting agitated with this person and y'all starting, and it's like, come, John, let's go take a walk, man. Let's walk. Or you know what? Let's go home. You know, I'm gonna go home with you, even though we're not going back to the same place. I'm like, man, you know what? Let's go on and leave, man. It's even, and it may not be whose fault it is. I don't care. I just want to defuse the situation because I want to respect. I want everybody to. I respect the situation or the environment. That I want everybody to have a good time. So I'm gonna take myself out with you instead of just saying, "Ja, leave." I'm gonna be like, "Come on, man. Let's go. Let's go to the store. Let's go do this. Let's go take a walk." And it's like we having that conversation. I get upset when people don't step in to diffuse situations. And it may not, you're not picking sides or choosing sides, just diffuse it.
They'll tell you too after it's over with. I start to say something, but I didn't want to, you know, I'm staying in my lane. You don't have a lane when it comes to family and you see something disruptive about to happen. Then there's the other side that as soon as one thing happens, they don't want to be bothered. See, we got to bring them in too, because I have people in my family, something may have happened before that was minor, but they're so holier than thou or goody two shoes. Now they don't ever want to come around the family because they feel like they don't want anything to go off. You're going to hear things at a family function. You're going to see things at a family function. But yet that doesn't mean that because I hear something that I shouldn't hear, after I correct it, well, we getting ready to go. We're not coming back. That's childishness at its best because no one's perfect, but let's grow together. And plus what they said or did was minor in the scope of the big picture.
Yeah. I think the whole shedding blood thing, it depends on the relationship that you have. I think that you have to shed blood. Sometimes it's a spouse. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not talking about like, and you may bring, a woman may bring a man into her household. And this is my new husband or whatever, and you got kids with somebody else, and that relationship between that man and your kids, which you should have already determined that before you got married. But sometimes those people show you things, and sometimes those are difficult things to deal with. Sometimes those kids are disrespectful to that other person or to any adult, and you have to, hey, you know, like if I got a niece that's disrespectful to her mother, that's gonna you know, have an effect on me and that niece relationship, because even though we may have been cool, but if I see you being disrespectful to somebody that don't deserve it, and I may ask you, well, why you doing? That's still and I have those conversations, not in front of everybody, but I'm like, hey, let's take a walk. Now and then if I just feel like, you know what, you just a disrespectful person, that's going to affect me in your relationship. And if I see somebody I may be cool with, love that family member, but if I see them treating somebody's child differently or something like that, that's going to affect us. And they may say, man, what's wrong? You used to do this, bro. It's like some things I don't like to deal with. I don't like to see. And if I'm real tight with you, I'm going to tell you, man, I don't understand, you know, why you do this or why you do that. Talk to me.
That's true. That's true. You know, these dynamics that we're talking about is so true. Shedding blood is a topic that should be discussed more often. And when we talk about shedding blood, we're not talking about leaving the world. Once you and I have a function as two brothers and you say something that I didn't appreciate, instead of me addressing it in love to you, then I'm going to leave and I'm never going to say anything to you. Now, 20 years later, they're asking me, have you heard from your brother Kev? No, man, that end, man. 20 years ago. This is how we are, many of us. So you mean to tell me you're talking about something that happened 20 years and you've tried to call me just to talk to me as your brother? And because I'm holding on to that, I will not answer the phone, and I'll go to my grave not wanting to be around you just because of something that happened 20 years ago.
Yeah, and that's my ego. That's, ego getting in the way of things. People should, like, and they say, like, what happened to y'all? I don't know, maybe acting funny. It's like, well, y'all been tight like this, da da da. And it's like, well, that to me, that shows a reflection on you. Did y'all discuss, did something happen? No, if you tell me something happened, that tell me that you fickle there. Your relationships with people are fickle, and you don't want to find out. I appreciate Nikita showing up. She had some comments. She said, I'm glad y'all speaking on this. I cut my mama family off. Wow, that's tough. She said they are so toxic and envious. And our brother says, say the truth, brothers.
Yeah. Sometimes this is necessary. And again, when we do it, it should really pain us to do it. It shouldn't be where when I cut you off, I'm happy. Oh yeah, I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I couldn't wait to do this. See, but instead, it should really pain me because of the love that I have for my family.
What about the love you have for yourself? You said protecting your peace. And if that, I'm not understand it's going to be like when that's family. Bottom line is family. Some people don't value family. That's another thing. Some people don't value family. So instead, if you on some kind, and I know sometimes controlled substance, that's controlling the way you react, but some people do things and it's not a control, and they do things to family, and it's like they don't value family. So those people are toxic. Like Nikita said, they're toxic. I've had people that you welcome into your house and you fed them and all this stuff like that, and they steal from you. And they family members, and it's like, okay, how do you treat those people? You have to shut that off. And it's like, because that's a toxic person. That person don't value the fact that you could go do that with somebody else. If you're a thieving person, the last person I should be expecting to not have to not have trust in is a family member.
Right.
And I'm not talking about somebody strung out. I'm talking about this is just them doing mischievous things, and they think that you're not going to notice this and that. And I've had a lot of conversations with inside the family and outside where people say, man, let me talk to you. I can't believe my brother did this, or my brother's woman did this, and my brother and he trying to protect, and it's like all kind of things like that. Or somebody family, they come into your house and it's like, well, they stole this and they stole that, and it's like, what? Like, why would they do that from?
Well, I just go back to what I was working on. There's a song that I'm working on, and it's called "Blood is Thicker Than Water," but it's really the opposite. Blood is not. It used to be thicker than water. Now blood is not thicker than water because the family members are the ones who are raising all the Cain and the things that you're talking about: the stealing, the lying, the cheating, the just being hypocritical, and all of that. So what we have to look at when it comes to the shedding of blood is that shedding of blood is something that we should do because we love ourselves, as you mentioned. I love myself so much that I'm not going to allow anything family member, because we wouldn't do it to another person. We wouldn't let another person do it. But because we're family, sometimes we feel like, well, I have to let that. That's just my cousin. That's just my auntie. That's my uncle. That's my mama, my daddy, et cetera, et cetera. But the bottom line is, when we love ourselves enough, we will have enough dignity to say to those who are engaging, I'm not going to do this because of, and then go ahead and do what we have to do with love in our hearts, And I think that's what it boils down to.
I think that holding up a mirror just in relationships, period. I'm gonna treat you how you treat me, or how you respect me. I might not be disrespectful, but I might just distance myself because I'm not seeing the respect or whatever. Sometimes you may be doing things and family don't support what you do. That's, to me, is an important. That's a reflection on them because they, for whatever reason, like, you may be having functions, and I know we've done functions, and it's like, well, if I look at all the family members that should be showing up for all the people that's engaged in it, then it should be a bunch of people here, even family reunion. But sometimes we don't get that. They say, oh, so-and-so doing that. And they may have something where he think he's all that. Or, it's like, well, you know what? That's family anyway. And if you're not going to support what I'm doing, then don't turn around and call me about supporting something that you got going on. And that's like family within the community, not just blood family, but family within the community. We have the community family to deal with too, which is looser, but it's everything that we were saying on this show about your blood family goes out to family in your community.
Yeah,
just like when we say friends, but it's actually the community should be more like a family.
Yeah.
That when I see somebody, I gotta be, you know what? Well, you don't show up to my stuff, but you're always asking me to show up to your stuff. Or you out, you know, you're not purchasing things that I'm trying to sell, or just putting the word out that hey, this person is selling these things. I may not want to buy it, I may not be into that, but I might be helping you, and we may have that. And then sometimes you got to shed that blood. It's like, you know what, do your thing and I'm gonna do my thing, and it's a peaceful relationship. I'm not gonna cause myself any angst because you're not doing something. But don't, and if you come to me, I'll be like, okay, yeah, whatever, but I'm not gonna be tripping over it, or I may be watching how this person is dealing with you, and it has nothing to do with me. And I say, well, you know what? If that's how you dealing with, and I know this guy is a good guy, and you dealing with them like that, then I got to be cautious of you.
You better be. You better be. Family is a close knit, supposedly by blood, but then there are some that have been raised with us, and we call them family. Like I have a lot of friends that I grew up with. I call them my cousins because they basically were raised with me, but they're family in terms of the close knit that we have as we grew up. And even some of them, you know, it's like they remind you of family because they're close to you, but then you still have to shed blood when it comes to some of the things that you don't approve of and that you don't want your children to approve of. Now, see the person that have children, it's a little bit different when you by yourself. When I say it's different, I can accept some things, but when I have children, especially small children, and they're growing up, and I'm teaching them in the ways of how to deal with racism, bigotry, sexism, and all of this stuff, misogynism, I have a standard that I have to have. And when I take my children to the functions, I have to make sure that what I am teaching at home is duplicated within this system. And even if it isn't, I must teach them until I can't take it anymore. And then I'm going to distance myself from them. So when you have children, I think you should really be keen. Not that you want everything to go your way, but come on, Kev, man. A lot of the stuff we see, this is nonsensical, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's your goals. Your goals should be your immediate family, teaching your kids and putting them in a healthy environment. And it's some people that you can't have around kids because not because they treat them, but because they don't have a filter. They don't know what they could say or how to act or how to function, period. Whether it's the way they mannerism, the way they act, what they saying, and you have to guard your children from that. And it may not be an issue between, because they could be around me and they could say all those things. But if you don't have the respect for the fact that I'm bringing my kids around, and I may say, hey, man, you know, I don't, you know, have that around my kids. If you don't know, then it's like I may say something, but it's like, oh man, I'm gonna speak my piece. Well, okay, well, you speak your piece. That's cool. I respect that. But I'm not gonna have you around. I'm not gonna be around. I have friends that people that I call my brothers, but I wouldn't bring them into my house because I see how they act outside, or when we go to somebody else's house, here they are, they peeping at this person's teenage daughter. They telling me how this person, and that's telling me, you know, all right, so I'm not bringing you around my house. I don't want you looking at my wife or looking at my daughter or looking at my, you know, nieces and nephews or something, like if they come over, because you didn't already did that with somebody else. And it's those type of people. I could be cool with you to an extent, but some of the stuff that you may not have been taught growing up, you know, uncouth things. And I had cousins that was they said, oh, you got your, you know, I see a neighbor, she was limping. This is a true story. She was limping, and I was like, oh, she must have had surgery. And my cousin comes over, he see her, he don't know her, he like, hey, how you doing? And you know, oh, they've been chopping on your toes, you must have got diabetes. And he say, chop chop. And I'm looking like, dude, you can't say that to people. He's just uncouth. So those are people that I can't bring around. But it's like they say anything, they do anything, and they think saying and doing anything is funny.
And also we might have to do a broadcast in the upcoming months or years on what to look for when we do get together as family members. Because like you just mentioned, there are some perverts. You know, there are perverts in our families. There are people whose psyche is just not it's not together. Now, we're not trying to say that every time someone says something, we're going to distance ourselves, but sometimes there are keys and there's indicators that this is not a good thing. And we need to check that instead of waiting till something happen and then say, you know, I always thought that person was like that. As if, you know, we have the answer when we could have been the one to diffuse it or check that person and say, hey, you need to watch this.
And it's crazy to me because I see a lot of families are protective of this one person that have done things or may have been accused of things. And they always inviting that person around anyway. And it's like, nah, you know what? I got to clear that slate. Is it real? Is it Memorex? What's up with this person? Or I don't want this person around because I got to protect my peace and my family and my kids or the kids that's in my family.
Right.
If y'all accusing this person of this stuff, then we need to have a discussion within the family, not at dysfunction, but discuss it and say, do we want this person around? Or what's going on with it? And I think the man in the family got to be the pillars and the protectors of the kids and have that type of discussion.
And that's one of the things that we didn't bring out that I want to bring out about men, about us. I just think that today, in today's society, when it comes to this topic of shedding blood, men, we are to be more unified into making sure that the family is protected, you see.
Right.
But oftentimes we come with an agenda that's not about unity. We come with an agenda that's everything else except for trying to make sure that this family is functional. And so we are some of the culprits. And instead of having these kind of discussions, like when we're going to get together, we can talk, hey, Kev, this is what we're going to look at. This is how we're going to try to do it. And what about this? What about that? To make this, whenever we gather, to make it a success, as opposed to just coming together as men. You got yours in the car. I got mine in the car. And when we get through getting our heads the way we want them, then we're going to sit down and talk crazy for the rest of the afternoon.
Right. And I think that's response. That's building of a family. I think that people, and that's what you got to be passing along to your kids. You got to understand this is how a functional family works. When I see incidents, and I always bring this up when I saw to me, anything that happens with celebrities and stuff like that, I look, is it a teachable moment? Is it a learning moment? Or is it just gossip? When I saw, and my thing, when I saw the Beyonce, Solange, Jay-Z altercation in the elevator, my thing was I was beckoning people, teach your kids the dynamics of what this situation. I don't care about who it is.
Right.
But when you got a spouse and a sibling, your sister, brother, whatever, and they're getting into it. Because I may have a wife and she may not get along with my sister, or my sister may not like her, or she may not get along with my mother. Those are things that people have to discuss. And whose fault is it? Like, and I may love my mother, and I'm not talking mom for real, Grace. I'm talking, I may love my mother. My mother may be disrespectful because she don't like this, or she may be protective, who my son with, and she may be disrespectful to the person that I'm choosing to be with or be around. Then I have to be able to understand, this is blood. This is somebody, but you still should not be stepping over boundaries or being disrespectful to my woman or her, your daughter's husband, unless he's doing things that warrants that. He's abusive, then that's something that, but I mean, the family should be, but I mean, if it's not anything like that, then you have to deal with those dynamics. And sometimes it got to be like, well, okay, well, since it's like this, let's go. I'm not going to have her upset at this function because my mom tripping. Okay, we both gonna go. Then y'all, I don't have to deal with that. Let's keep the peace. And they're gonna say, oh, he's choosing water over blood. Well, no, my blood is acting crazy or acting is being, and I don't respect that.
Yeah, that's true. I think a lot of it too has to do with the as we said earlier, it's the thought process on family. What a family is, what a family does, how a family should function, and even when the family doesn't function the way it should, how should it recover from that mishap that happened? Because a lot of us don't have the right understanding of what a family is, you see, because we've been bombarded with social media. We see all the things on television about dysfunctional families. And so we carry that into our families and we think that that's normal, but it's abnormal. A lot of us have some psychological problems that we need to fix. And once we fix those problems, we'll be able to sit down and we won't have to shed blood. But until then, I think shedding blood is something that's necessary for your own benefit, for your children's health, for your psyche, for your emotional status. We have to realize that shedding blood is not a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing, especially if it's done the way it's supposed to be done.
Yeah. I see a lot of social media posts and things, and it irks me. I'm not gonna act like it don't, but a lot of the things, the fundamental things that people say, and it's almost like pitting family against each other or spouse versus family. If your man told you to let's go and your dad told you to sit down, what you gonna, it's like, well, why are you making, because that should be a discussion that should be a respect thing. The dad should be respecting my relationship, and my spouse should be respectful of my relationship with my parents. And somebody and it shouldn't always be a this or that, or if you pick up your wife and your mom, who's going to ride in the front seat. It's like, man, that tells me that how menial it is in your mind. You don't understand the function of family. It shouldn't be like, well, I want to sit in the front. I want, if somebody's like, nah, you go ahead, go. And that should be the discussion between the people. But it's telling me that we don't have functioning families to understand that. If I'm with my woman, my wife, and her dad, because I'm like, oh no, go ahead. He should be like, no, you go ahead. That should be the fight. Not it's of respect. I respect you more. No, you respect me more. And it's like, okay. Not, well, I want to be up there. I got shotgun like a kid.
Or when you get home, your lip is stuck out because you had to sit in the back and her dad sat in the front. And as soon as you get in the house, you're telling her, I should have sat in the front. And it's like, but you acted nice in front of the father. Oh, that's fine. But in your heart, that wasn't in your heart.
And I don't understand it not being in nobody's heart. I don't care. Like, I got the utmost respect for you, sir. No, or if you're not even her, you her uncle or whatever. I don't care. You just an elder person. You know what? That's how I roll. And it shouldn't be a conflict or you put this person here. Now that tells me, that's an indication that we have a problem in our community with a lot of our family members on just wanting to pit people against each other.
Oh yeah. And it all boils down to, again, everything I say, it boils down to, but it goes back to the thinking styles. I'm big on thinking, because the way we think about any situation, if it's proper, it's going to help the situation. But an improper mindset, Kev, it's going to pour oil onto a fire that's already blazing. And many of us, the mind isn't right. So we need to learn, what is a family? How does a family look? Not like the Cosbys, not like other Good Times, not like all these other shows, but how does a real family function? We have problems, we have issues, but yet we still should be able to work together and not hold on to those things that happened years ago, so that we can not have to shed blood. But if we have to shed blood, we must shed blood, but we really don't want to shed blood unless it's absolutely necessary.
It should be about peace. I mean, you got different dynamics in a family. You got religions, you got politics, things that probably shouldn't be discussed just like any place else. You respect somebody's politics and religion, and if you don't, then that's being a problem. Even though I may be the same religion as you, but if you're being disrespectful with that, I got disrespect and say, man, chill, man. That's just, and just check that, because a lot of those things cause a lot of friction. Nah, man, let's not even talk about it. And that's why I talk about people diffusing situations. And the dynamics of dealing with relationships within a family. If you're not dealing with, somebody's not dealing with your wife, and we at this function and they disrespectful and it's a mom, whatever. And I'm like, well, you know what? I'm not dealing with you because of the way that you treating this person. You're not dealing with them because of, and that's how that stuff, it should be like, okay, that person should feel alienated and not you making somebody else feel alienated and unprotected. And that's one thing, protection and within the family. You got to protect the environment. You got to protect the boundaries. You got to protect your own boundaries and things, and your peace.
And we must grow up, and like you said, we should be able to have discussions about anything, but unfortunately many of us are immature because we want it to be our way. And if it's not our way, or when you disagree with me, or when you bring something to the table that's different that I never heard, instead of me saying, wow, Kev, that's a beautiful thought, I never thought of that, now I'm gonna cuss you out because I never thought of that, and you want to be, and it's not even about that. So we need to grow up in our thinking, and that's where it all starts, in the way we think about family.
Right. You have anything else you want to leave? A lot of comments. I appreciate everyone that commented. Barbara said, back in the day, family bonded. Nowadays, it's so discombobulated. Anything that comes up, you can bet you're going to get cursed out and talked about. No morals or no respect. And when you can't reciprocate the respect given by me, then kick rocks, still love you.
See, and I want to leave with this. I've often heard that when Big Mama, Grandma, Meemaw, when the grandmother or grandfather, Big Daddy, I've always heard that when they pass away, that the family disintegrates. Well, I'm going to have to differ from that. When they pass away, the family doesn't disintegrate. The real family members come out. Because when Big Mama and Meemaw and Big Daddy, when they were here, we just got together for their sake. But once they left this earth, then real whatever was in our heart came out. Because if it was there when they were alive, they shouldn't have to be the glue. We all should be the glue. But in the African American community, it's oftentimes the grandmother or someone who's always wanted us to be together. They're the ones who we call the glue. But when they pass away, we see that the influence that they had, it couldn't have been too strong, or else we would have kept doing what we're supposed to do.
Because their glue should have been not just like your glue to that person, my glue to that person. And that's how the glue, that's why it disintegrates. But what happens is they should be having a glue between, they should be causing the glue between all of us. And that should be the teaching thing. Like you talk about teaching the kids, y'all got to be treating each other a certain way. This is the family. The family is not just like a pyramid up to this tree. All of the top of the tree, the top of the pyramid could fall off, but that pyramid gonna still be there, and we're gonna put something else there. And they may be fighting on who you think you are. You ain't the head of the family, whatever. If that's whatever. But the thing is, it should be a bond between the individuals that's part of that pyramid, not just a bond to that one person, because when that one person goes, our bond should even be thicker.
It should be.
Or whatever.
Exactly.
So that tells you something about your family. And some people just don't get along, and they just, if you don't want to get along, peace, go, whoever, for whatever reason.
Wow. I want to say on the last note is, for those who are watching the Jah and Kev show, we want you to tell someone, call someone, and have them to subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is a wonderful broadcast, and we want the world to know. So you would help us by way of calling your cousins, your friends, your family, and whomever, and say, you need to watch a couple of brothers, not because of the brothers, but because of the content. We want you to hear what they're talking about. This is going to help you. So again, for all of our viewers, please reach out to someone else and let them know about the Jah and Kev show, so that our viewership can go up, so more people can listen to these kinds of discussions and they can benefit just like you have.
Yeah, this is a YouTube broadcast. I know a lot of y'all that's commenting is on Facebook, but let them know, go to the YouTube channel, subscribe. That's the main thing. Let us get our subscriptions up, because what it is, we're trying to get, if we go on to get sponsors with it, we want to tell people. And if they say, well, you only got like 50 subscribers, that ain't nothing to me. That ain't helping my business. And it's like the subscriptions, it will help us out. Even if you don't watch, just subscribe to our channel. You may like it. Some people that don't watch it, go back and look at some of the other shows. Maybe they'll like it. We had somebody come on and they was like, wow, on YouTube, they was like blowing up. I can't remember what the last show was, but they was like, wow, this is something amazing. And we had a pretty good show. Also, if y'all want to contact us, on our email account is jahkevshow@gmail.com. Just just jahkevshow@gmail.com. If you got something that you want us to discuss, or you got a topic, or contact us on the email, or just contact Jah on Cry's Womb on his Facebook page. You get with me on Kevin Lewis, what we're broadcasting the show on now. And we'll talk about the topics, hear us discuss the things. If you want to engage in it, give us a call, and I appreciate that.
All right, we'll see you guys in another week from now, not this week, but the week after that, at 1 o'clock Central Time, 2 o'clock Eastern. We're out. The Jah and Kev show. Now.